something we should be very proud of, and you in China should be very proud of. Lifting people out of poverty, giving people a hope of a decent life, and that has happened a lot, and China has made a big contribution to that.
在波动的海洋中，以智慧和知识明辨方向，顺水行船，这是水手的原则。而在瞬息波动的全球局势中，同样需运用知识去分析、理解变化，寻找驱动力量。跨越南北半球，中澳知识纷至沓来，彰显其格局。每一点滴的进展都是缓慢而艰巨的，但正是每一点滴汇成潮水的方向。约翰·霍华德，澳大利亚政治家，1996年成为澳洲第25任总理，并3度连任成功。在他任职总理期间，对华态度友好，为中澳两国建立了相当成功的双边关系。他认为，虽然两国在国情、制度、文化等方面存在差异，但是双方都致力于中澳之间的共同点，秉承互利共赢、相互尊重的精神，共同乘风破浪、砥砺前行，并因此形成了友好合作的伙伴关系。
So you have built a really successful bilateral relationship between China and Australia during your prime ministership. So what are the secrets for doing so?
The biggest reason we were successful is that we concentrated on the things that China and Australia have in common. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of differences. Our political systems are totally different. Mm-hmm. Right. And that difference is not going to disappear. Our cultures are different, our histories are different, but we have a lot in common. Have trade complementarity, what we have to sell, China wants. We have very good people-to-people relationships. Right. Chinese people like coming to Australia. Many of them have come to live here. Mm-hmm. And Chinese parents like their children being educated in Australia, and increasing numbers of Chinese tourists are coming to Australia. Mm-hmm. If we focus on the things we have in common, that will enable us to handle the inevitable differences that arise because of our different political systems.
Okay, back to the 2015. So China and Australia signed the CHAFTA. And what is the benefit of the CHAFTA to the Australian?
Well, one of the benefits is that it expands our markets in China. Mm-hmm. And for China, it expands her markets in Australia. We have duty-free entry of Chinese goods into Australia. Right. Got to remember that the trading relationship that we had was already very strong before CHAFTA. Mm-hmm. But CHAFTA was as we say, the icing on the cake.
How about the cake? What it looks like right now?
Well, the cake is very good because we sell lots of iron ore, lots of coal, but we also provide a lot of services. It's not just resources, although resources is still the main part of the trading relationship.
How do you see the relationship between Australia and China evolving in the next 5 years?
Well, I think providing we find ways of dealing with the differences, it should continue to evolve very well. But it won't evolve if we don't accept that there are going to be some differences, and they have to be addressed very frankly.
There's always keep a really great relationship under the friendship.
Yes,
like
I think people want the relationship to be warm and friendly, mm-hmm. and we therefore must find ways of solving the differences, and we have to accept that when you have a liberal democracy and an authoritarian state working together, they're going to look at certain things differently.
从1985年第一次来到中国起，在随后的几十年里，约翰·霍华德访华20余次。他亲眼目睹了从上世纪80年代到现在中国的巨大变化，见证了新时代的中国正在彰显自信与从容。 他坚信，中国的现代化发展不仅仅有利于中国人民，更有利于整个世界。
So since your first visit to China in 1980s? 85. Wow, time flies so fast. What's your first impression to China?
China was still emerging from being a very third world country and in transport and dress and so forth. But I went to Shanghai and to Beijing, and the difference when I went later on was enormous.
So how many times you visited China?
Oh, I've lost count. Probably about 20 times.
Oh, 20 times. Wow. So what is the biggest change you have seen?
Well, China has a very large middle class. There's still many hundreds of millions of people in China who are poor. And I look to the day when they will be lifted into the middle class. But China has developed a strong middle class, and that is a welcome development, and it has many modern cities and very similar to Western cities, and there are lots of cars on the road, and there's lots of pollution too. But it is remarkable how China has modernised and developed, and I used to say very regularly when I was Prime Minister, and I'm happy to repeat it, that the growth of China has been good not only for the Chinese, but it's been good for the world.
So as we know, the enterprise is also a part of the social structure. So how could the enterprise can make some contributions to the world or to their countries?
Well, enterprise is behind growth, economic growth, and economic growth lifts people out of poverty. And the greatest moral challenge the world has, whether you live in China or Australia or Europe or America, is to lift people out of poverty. Yeah. That is a greater challenge than anything else. It's far more important than climate change or anything else. Lifting people out of poverty, giving people a hope of a decent life. And that has happened a lot. And China has made a big contribution to that. And I continue to believe that if we can keep growing our economies and cooperating with each other, we can lift more people out of poverty. You know what has happened to China and how the life expectancy of Chinese people has risen enormously. And that is a wonderful development.
Right.
Something we should be very proud of, and you in China should be very proud of.
What kind of advice you want to give to the younger generations?
Well, the only advice I would give to the younger generation is keep believing in your future. And you have come a long way in a short period of time, and I hope you go much further in an equally short period of time, because I think the growth of China has been wonderful for Chinese people. It's lifted so many of them out of poverty, and it has given comfort and affluence. Right. And I hope that the contentment that people derive from that continues.
如今，霍华德虽已卸任，但是他心中对政治的热情从未消减一分。虽然已到耄耋之年，然而这位在澳洲政坛上连任过3届的前总理，在谈及政事之时，依旧表现出其敏锐的政治思维和老练的政治之道。数十次的访华经历，以及亲眼目睹了中国经济的飞速进步，让他十分看重中澳两国的双边关系。观自身，霍华德的格局在于始终如一；观世界，他深知中澳两国的相处之道蕴含在友好二字之中。未来，只有和平发展、互利共赢，才是世界格局下的大国智慧与相处法则。